Hi students, it's Dr. Cohen. I am recording this video as a way of trying to help you to determine whether or not you should take the final and how hard you should study for it. In order to do that, I am going to show you this from the syllabus, which goes over how to determine what your grade is at any particular point. Okay, so let me share my screen with you on that. Okay, so what you see here is a summary of all the graded items, and the maximum number of points for your semester would be 2,000. And then underneath it, if you look at the grading scale at the bottom, you will see that you can determine if you have an A, for instance. So if you have 1,800 points or more, you have an A. And then each of those different grade ranges gives you the number of what you have as a grade at any particular point. The first step is to make sure that everything has been graded. So if you have completed all of the assignments for class and they have been graded. So if, for instance, your policy debate paper has been graded, if you've done your policy debate in class and that's been graded, I will put the attendance grades in on Wednesday the 20th. So those will be in your final attendance grades. Will be in. So whatever your points are at that particular point, that tells you what your grade is at that moment. So let's say that your grade in class, after all of that is added together, let's say that your grade is 1,850 points. You already have an A. So taking the final will not bring your grade up any higher, because as long as you have at least 1,800 points, you have an A. Let's suppose that you add all of that up, and at the end of all of that, your grade is 1,650 points. Taking the final exam will add 100 points to that, so you will have 1,750 points. You will have a B whether you take the final or you don't take the final. So you're welcome to not take the final, okay? And then let's suppose that you add all of that up, and at the end, your grade is 1,720, okay? Taking the final exam, if you work very hard on it and you get at least an 80 or above, would bring you to that 1,800 point. So it's worth taking the final. In other words, take what your grade is, what your number of accumulated points are before you take the final, add 100 points to that, and that's the maximum grade that you can get in the class. Okay, so if that extra 100 points isn't going to bring you into the next grading area, isn't going to bring you up into a B or an A or whatever, then it doesn't make any sense to take the final. You're still welcome to take the final, but it may not make sense. If, for instance, you only need to get 50 points on the final in order to bring it into the next grade category, well, that gives you some indication as to how hard you have to study for the final. So that's another thing, is you could take the final, but maybe if you need a lot of points, study very hard. If you need a few points, then you don't have to study as hard. So that gives you some idea about where you're at with the grade. I just want to also remind you that in addition to taking the final, you can also do the extra credit assignment. So if you look, this is our classes folio page. If you go down here, you will see extra credit assignment Helene makeup. So basically what you're going to do for that is you're going to watch a film. And as you watch the film, and the film is a lecture that I gave at a conference recently, you're going to answer a series of questions. Each of the questions will stem from the section, the previous section that you just watched, except for the last question, which is kind of an overview, right? All right, so question 1 says, relate my discussion of my job as a homemaker and or the lessons I learned from it to one topic from the Sky Pack. And you can pick any topic. Here again, as with other things, I'm not talking about an entire module. I'm more talking about a specific topic within the module. Think of it as like a heading or a definition of a particular topic. Okay, so for instance, let's say you might relate it to Kubler-Ross's stage of denial, okay? That's more the minutia I'm talking about as opposed to relating it to death and dying more broadly. Okay, so here you're going to write your response. You're going to say, question one, here's my answer. Pay attention to the word count. There is a word count minimum. Let me just see if maybe I can blow this up just a bit. Okay, so for instance, number 7, rate my discussion of my job as a PhD student and my research at the time to lessons learned, and you get to pick the topic. So anything we learned this semester, anything we talked about that was talked about in SkyPack, bring it in. Make sure you both tell me how it's described in SkyPack, and by that, so if there's a definition or a way in which it's described, you need to tell me both what the SkyPack said about it, and then how it relates to what I talked about in the lecture. So there's 7 of those questions, and then the last question is write what you learned overall from this lecture, and there's a minimum of 500 words. So you're going to write a lot more on that one than the other ones. Each of them is worth different amounts of points. For the first 7, the maximum points is 8 points, and then for the final one, you can earn, I'm sorry, for the first 7, it's 8 points, and then it's 30 points for the last one. Let me see. Just want to go in here and show you lessons learned from the field. The deadline for submitting this is December 2nd. So it's before the deadline for the final exam. So you can do this instead of the final exam. It'll give you that same 100 points, depending on where you're at, or you might want to do both. But remember that there's a deadline on this one, which is December 2nd. I also wanted to show you the final exam is here, and it is opened on December 6th, so that will be after the deadline for that extra credit assignment, and it'll stay open until December 11th. More details on that in the next video, but I just wanted to give you a sense of what you needed to do to figure out how hard you need to study for the final. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Thank you.